प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित् सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत् स्वप्नजागर सुषुप्तिमवैति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति। हरि ओम, वेलकम बैक टू जेम्स ऑफ भगवद गीता। हमारा 2 दिन का ब्रेक हो गया एंड नाउ वी आर बैक. We'll continue from where we left off before we took this break. In the middle of chapter 17 हम बात कर रहे थे सात्विक और राजसिक आहार के बारे में. सात्विक एंड राजसिक फूड, जैसे मैंने पिछली बार कहा था कि अध्याय नंबर 17 और 18 में अब भगवान जीवन के हर क्षेत्र को, एवरी एस्पेक्ट ऑफ लाइफ, he will divide into sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. It's a very useful portion, and through this we'll be able to derive a personality chart, a personality chart which will give us an indication where do we lie. Are we sattvic, are we rajasic, are we tamasic, or to what extent are we sattvic, to what extent are we rajasic, to what extent are we tamasic. This will require your own introspection. You will have to be honest, you will have to have an honest assessment of yourself. What type of food are you attracted to? What type of gift do you give? With what attitude do you gift? This is what we'll discuss going forward. Sattvic danam, rajasic danam. What kind of happiness do you seek? This is something we'll cover in chapter 18. So when we'll study this, you'll understand, okay, what is the sattvic way of doing it? What is the rajasic way of doing it? What is the tamasic way of doing it? It'll give you an indication of the right orientation. It'll also give you an assessment of where you are right now. See, you can't force yourself to be sattvic. It doesn't happen that way. You can't say, oh, this is written in scripture, so I have to do it this way. I'm only going to do it this way. It's not about what you do, but why you do it that matters. You can't force yourself to be sattvic because it's not some outer action. It's the attitude, the intention with which you do it. And that sattva is only developed over a period of time, slowly, naturally. You have to make it your nature. And that only happens through knowledge. That only happens through reflection, contemplation, over a period of time. It doesn't happen overnight. So right now is our chance to get educated about it. The distinction between sattva, rajas and tamas in every aspect of life. So usi, with that thought, we covered sattvic and rajasic food and tamasic food. Sattvic, rajasic and tamasic food. So the one point that is important to understand, and which is where people make the mistake, People think, oh, if I eat sattvic food, I'll become a sattvic person. I wish it was so simple. I wish it was so simple. The gross cannot control the subtle. The gross can influence the subtle. Sattvic food can help you create a conducive environment. I repeat, please listen to my words carefully. Sattvic food can help you create a conducive environment that will help you be disciplined, that will help you create that opportunity to gain knowledge. Ultimately, sattva is only gained through knowledge. So any same principle goes for yoga. It is not hatha yoga that makes you sattvic. It is not hatha yoga that makes you spiritual. Hatha yoga prepares your body, just like sattvic food prepares your body. It helps keep away disturbances, distractions, pains, aches, problems, and maybe some subtler aspects like it helps keep your body regulated. So sattvic food doesn't make you a sattvic person. It helps create a conducive environment for your body where you can put in the effort and gain knowledge, where you can put in the effort and be disciplined, where you can put in the effort and have a regulated, moderated approach to spiritual knowledge, to study. And through that study, through that swadhyaya, over a period of time, you will become sattvic. So it's not so simple. You just change your diet and you'll become sattvic. This is one of the things you have to do, no doubt. Become sattvic in every aspect of life. Trying to regulate even your physical diet to sattvic food is very important. It's an essential aspect in the ashram. Whether you go to Vedanta Academy, whether you go to Gita Academy, we eat very simple food. I remember that there was a limit on the amount of onion and garlic we could use, and even some other fruits, some other vegetables. Some places, some ashrams will go, they'll not even use onion and garlic. Why? Because onion and garlic has a certain influence on your body. It's not considered sattvic in that sense. And those of us, see, in the ashram, in the Vedanta Academy, the students would take care of the every aspect, whether it's kitchen, whether it's garden, whether it's accounts. So it was students who were taking responsibility. And there would be some regulation. Okay, you can only use this much onion, this much garlic. And over a period of time, after a few weeks, people will start putting more garlic or more onion in the food. Natural tendency, make it slightly tastier. So every 2-3 months, the cycle would repeat. Again, there would be too much onion and garlic in the food. Again, from high command, from Swamiji, the direction would come, reduce the onion and garlic. Because he would eat the same food. So it's human tendency to want to steer away from that. And Swamiji would bring us back, say, no, reduce the amount of onion and garlic in the food. It's not that the onion and garlic, eating it made us less sattvic or not eating it made us more sattvic. No, it's not that the onion and garlic made us sattvic. It's about what environment did it create? How did it prepare the body? The actual sadhana is your study, is your reflection, is your karma, bhakti, jnana, yoga. But this helped create the platform, the foundation. This helped create the right environment. If you go and eat pizza, burger, noodles at lunch, and then you try to sing bhajans in the early afternoon, it won't happen. Try it. Right now, what happens? If you go out for lunch, we eat a heavy lunch, we are groggy all afternoon. So what kind of effect does the food have on your body? That is what is important. Sattvic food is that food which has a positive effect. It promotes health. I'm just repeating what he said in verse number 8. He says, food which increases longevity, gives a sense of strength, health, and joy. So these are the things a sattvic person wants in life. A sattvic person wants the right environment that will help him maintain his discipline, the right kind of environment that will help him maintain his spiritual practice. And that's why he is very conscious of what he takes into the body. He is very conscious of what kind of food he takes in. This is the kind of food he's attracted to. Hmm? If you're attracted to pizza and burger and noodles and pasta, and it's not about right or wrong. If you're attracted to that, and if you're making allowance for that, if you want to try to, you know, um, cheat in that sense, it means that there is rajas in you. That's all it means. It means that there is tamas in you. That's all it means. The sattva in you is not strong enough to say no. No, this is not for my well-being. So sattvic food, I repeat, doesn't make you sattvic. It helps create a conducive environment. And sattvic people are attracted to sattvic food. Similarly, rajasic people are attracted to rajasic food. Tamasic people are attracted to tamasic food, stale food, spoiled food, impure, tasteless, cooked in an unhygienic environment. Old, days old, he's happy to eat it. That gross hunger in which you'll eat whatever is there. And you like it almost. You like the rotten food. 3 days old food, you're happy to just take out of the fridge and eat it. Tamasic. Such food is dear to the tamasic. So next he talks about, just like he talked about food, next he talks about yajna, sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice are you performing in life? What kind of service and sacrifice are you doing? You'll notice it's not about what you do, but why you do it. Immediately, the first thing you'll notice when you read this verse, it's not about it's not about what sacrifice you perform. It's not about how many Brahmins you feed or children you feed or how much money you donate to the temple. It's not about what you do. It's about the attitude, the why. That's what matters. That's what makes your sacrifice sattvic or rajasic or tamasic. So we'll see what is quickly sattvic yajna and rajasic yajna and tamasic yajna. Verse number 11, we'll chant together sattvic yajna. Aphalakankshibhiryajnah vidhidrishto ya ijjate yashtavyameveti manaha samadhaya sa sattvikaha. Aphalakankshibhiryajnah vidhidrishto ya ijjate yashtavyameveti manaha samadhaya sa sattvikaha. मैं हिंदी अनुवाद पढ़ूंगा पहले एंड देन आई विल रीड द इंग्लिश. जो यज्ञ विधि से नियत किया हुआ है तथा करना ही कर्तव्य है, ऐसे मन का समाधान लेकर फल की इच्छा न करने वाले द्वारा किया जाता है, वह यज्ञ सात्विक है. The sacrifice offered by those desiring no fruit, बिना फल की इच्छा करने वाले, as enjoined by ordinance, जो नियत किया हुआ है, that which is obligatory, enjoined by ordinance, that which one ought to do, with the mind well resolved that they should merely sacrifice. This is the most important. With the mind well resolved that they should merely sacrifice. That sacrifice is sattvic. The kind of yajna performed. See, out here, first thing you'll notice is there is nothing about how much to sacrifice, what area to sacrifice, who to sacrifice to, none of that. None of that. Which day to sacrifice. See, we mechanically follow some rituals. Oh, today is a good day. You have to feed 5 people out here. It'll bring you good health, or it'll bring you wealth. We follow this idea of yajna mechanically. And see, those are also important, because if those weren't mentioned, then you would never sacrifice. So those directions are meant for the very gross people who never think of sacrifice. But if you're interested in lifting yourself, if you're interested in evolving, first thing you have to understand, it's not about these instances, 1 or 2 days in the year where you should do yajna. Where you should do yajna. Where you should put in that effort. The sacrifice offered with those desiring no fruit. Ask yourself, when do you perform yajna? When there's a new house, or when there is some puja, or when there is some festival. That's when you perform yajna, right? What's in your mind? What's in your mind? We come to yajna, any yajna. Suppose there's a new house or a new office. We come to the yajna full of desires. Oh, I'm doing this yajna so that my office is very successful. I'm doing this yajna so that my house is well protected. I'm doing this yajna for XYZ reason. There's always some kind of reason. And what is Sattvik Yajna? Sattvik Yajna is yajna performed by those desiring no fruit. No result. See, what happens in the yajna, it's very interesting, if you do any puja, if you do any havan, and if you pay attention to what is happening, whether it's yajna of marriage, whether it's yajna of starting an office, whether it's yajna of starting a new house, in any yajna, first, the Panditji will clear the entire environment, clean the entire environment, and then he'll invite all the gods. He'll invite all the gods one by one. He'll make you bathe them. He'll make you, clean them. He'll make you then, dress them properly. Those small rituals, where you're putting gel, where you're putting some vastra on them. So what's that idea? He's first inviting the gods, then, catering to them. And then he's simply chanting to the gods, oh gods, please bless. Inka kalyan ho. That's it. No other thought. Oh gods, you are the ones that make this universe function. Your powers are those that makes everything work together. This incredible kaleidoscope of the world, all these laws which come together to make everything function. May you, with your powers, bless them. That's it. That's the idea of yajna, nothing else. And you, as the person performing the yajna, all you ought to do is have that sense of reverence, have that sense of surrender. The sacrifice offered by those desiring no fruit. Nothing out of it you want. That's it. You're just welcoming. You're doing something, you're starting something new, you're doing something good, you're doing something important. You're just making sure that the gods are part of it. That's it. No other desire. Oh God, you've come. Now that you've come, let me ask you for something. The mind is well resolved that you should merely sacrifice. You should merely perform the yajna. That is it. Yajna is this attitude. Yajna is an attitude. That's what we have to understand. Yajna is an attitude, a spirit of service and sacrifice. In any yajna, there is a havan kund. And in that havan kund, everybody's putting the ahuti. That ahuti represents your contribution. That ahuti represents your effort. And the right attitude to perform yajna is, my role is to simply put in my effort. My role is to simply put in my ahuti. And make sure I work with everyone in a spirit of collaboration. I perform my duties to the best of my ability. I perform my roles and responsibilities to the best of my ability. That is Satvik Yajna. That attitude with which you simply play your roles in life in a detached way, with no axe to grind, with no expectation of a result. You do all the right things, but you leave the result to God. You leave the result to nature. You leave the result to the universe, whatever you want to call it. God, universe, nature, whatever you want to call it. You leave the result to that power beyond your control. You simply do what you ought to do in life, in every arena of life, in every role and responsibility you're performing, you're executing. That is sattvic. That is sattvic. On the contrary, what is rajasic yajna? On the contrary, we see Rajas has that element of ichha. Rajas has that element of ego. Rajas has that element of aham bhav, that sense of mindness. So that desire for the fruit, that ego, that ahankar is very much present in Rajas. You may perform the same yajna, you may perform the same action as it were. You may perform the same action as it were. Ek second, sorry. Sorry for the disturbance. I have two naughty fellows in my house, and sometimes they're very well behaved usually, but sometimes they get excited. So they're very excited with me in the morning. So they were jumping on me right now. So I had to move them out. Okay. So Rajas has that element of ahankar. Rajas has that element of ichha, that unfulfilled desire. So you may be performing the same yajna with a different attitude, with a rajasic attitude. So that's what we'll see. What is rajasic yajna? The very next verse talks about rajasic yajna. We'll chant it. Verse number 12. Abhisandhaya tu phalam dambharthamapi chaiva yat ijjate bharata shresthaha tam yajñam vidhi rajasam. Abhisandhaya tu phalam dambharthamapi chaiva yat ijjate bharata shresthaha tam yajñam vidhi rajasam. भगवान कहते हैं व्हाट इज रजसिक यज्ञ, और हे भरतर्षभ, जो यज्ञ दिखावे के लिए और फल को ही उद्देश्य में रखकर किया जाता है, उस यज्ञ को राजसिक जानो. What is rajasic yajna? That sacrifice, oh Bharatarshava, oh Bharatashreshtha, that sacrifice offered, seeking indeed not only fruit, but ostentation, दिखावे के लिए, दम्भः, दिखावे के लिए, with ostentation, know it to be rajasic, oh best of Bharatas. The rajasic people, first of all, want to know, let the whole world know that they are performing a yajna. They publicize it. Why? Because they want the whole world to think, oh, what a great person, they're performing the yajna. Oh, what a great family, they're performing a yajna. Ostentation, dambha. See, it's not about publicizing. You can publicize. It's what is within you. आपके अंदर क्या इच्छा है कि लोग, क्या आप में वो इच्छा है कि लोग जाने कि मैं यज्ञ कर रहा हूं? क्या आप में वो इच्छा है कि people should think that I am a good person, I am a great person? People should know. If that thought is in you while performing the yajna, while performing the sacrifice, then you are rajasic. People who they may do their roles and responsibilities, but they want to be recognized. That need for recognition, that need for acknowledgement, that need for your name to be there. That desire is Rajasik. So ostentation and also Ichha, the sacrifice offered, seeking a fruit. There's always a result orientation. There's always an expectation. In any relationship, for example, you are doing your roles, you are doing your responsibility, no doubt, but there's always that lurking expectation. What will I get in return? What will I get in return? Now people will immediately ask, is that wrong? क्या वो गलत है? देखिए गलत और सही की बात हम नहीं कर रहे हैं. Please don't get into the concept of galat or sahi. This is Rajasik, period. This is Rajasik. Sattvic is performing your roles and responsibilities with no expectation. Now you choose what you want to be. Being Rajasik has its consequences. Being Sattvic has its consequences. It's as simple as that. ये सही और गलत की बात नहीं हो रही है. If you want to have that attitude in any relationship of expectation, of return, I'm doing so much, the other person should also do so much. See, after a point, you can't control the other person. You can't. If the other person is being always unfair, you have that understanding and approach the relationship. One of the biggest freedoms in life is not to have any expectation from the other, where you don't need anything from the other person. It's one of the biggest freedoms in life. So slowly growing to that state, you can't do it on day one, can't do it immediately, but slowly growing to that state. It begins by resolving, I am supposed to do what I ought to do. I am supposed to do what I ought to do. That is Sattvic. But Yajna, sacrifice, duty performed with the expectation of return, is Rajasik. With the expectation of getting back, with the expectation of, I am doing so much, you must also do so much. Or with some selfish expectation. I am doing this so that I get all of that in return. That is Rajasik. Similarly, Tamasic is completely perverted. Tamasic sacrifice is completely perverted, where you have no goal in mind, where you have no sense of responsibility in mind. Where you have no sense of responsibility in mind. Where you have no sense of giving, where you have no goal, where you have no purpose. See, any yajna is performing your obligatory duties to the best of your abilities, performing your roles and responsibilities to the best of your abilities. Is that spirit of service and sacrifice. It necessarily comes out of a goal, a higher goal. The stronger your higher goal, the stronger your ideal in life, the more aligned you will be to yajna. When you have no higher goal in life, like a tamasic person has no higher goal in life, you'll not be able to perform yajna. You'll not be able to perform yajna. It will be the most absurd. It will be the most purposeless. People perform such yajnas only out of some kind of social necessity. People do the yajna half-heartedly. Half-heartedly. See, I've seen people in the puja telling the Pandit ji, अच्छा, थोड़ा करके छोड़ दीजिए. थोड़ा करके छोड़ दीजिए. They are dictating to the Pandit ji what should be done, what should not be done. They have no ichha to do it. Why are you doing it then? It's almost mechanically, without any knowledge, without any sense. I don't know why you're performing the action. Nowadays, we are seeing in the yajna of marriage. First of all, people marry, especially if you go to some of these weddings, people marry in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. after having a 5-hour barat. First of all, they marry in all sorts of intoxicated states. Hmm? There are marriages where the bride and groom are completely, I don't know in what state. Hmm? I'm sorry, I'm saying this, but this is a fact. This is what is happening. Hmm? Nobody has any sense of awareness of what is taking place. What is the meaning of that ritual? Just doing it mechanically. Not in the right spirit, not in the right way, severed from ordinance, completely severed from ordinance, in the wrong place, wrong time, wrong manner. That is tamasic. Hmm? That is tamasic. So Sattvic Yajna, Rajasik Yajna, and Tamasic Yajna performed mechanically out of some kind of, I don't know, social pressure. Karna hai to kar lo. Half-heartedly, with no sense of the right way of doing it, without the power of the mantra. That's what he says in the Gita. There's no power of the mantra in any yajna. The mantra, the goal, the higher ideal. That's what guides you. That's what is the inspiration. There's no power. There's no power in such a yajna. So you decide what kind of yajna do you want to perform. Do you want to perform sacrifices? Do you want to perform yajna mechanically? Or do you want to perform it with the right attitude? Do you want to remove your sense of selfishness and attachment and ego and perform the best kind of yajna? Perform actions with no axe to grind to the best of your ability. That is sattvic. Next, he talks about tapas. Next, he talks about tapas. And I think today we have about 10 minutes. We will start the discussion on tapas. What is tapas? Tapas, austerity. It's a very well-known and perhaps misunderstood word. People think tapas means all sorts of difficult things you have to do. Almost like a self-torture. When people think of tapas, they think, oh, it's very difficult and something you have to, really hurt yourself while doing. Tapas is not doing all of these strange and torturous things to your body. Walking thousands of miles, standing on one feet, not eating for days. These are not tapas. That's not the meaning of tapas. What is tapas? What is sattvic tapas? So very beautifully in this chapter itself, he talks about sattvic tapas. He says sattvic tapas is made up of three things at all three levels of the personality, at the level of the body, at the level of the mind, and at the level of the intellect, speech. At the level of the body, the mind, the intellect, at all three levels of your personality, there is tapas that you can perform. First of all, what is tapas? Tapas is spiritual effort. Tapas is spiritual effort. The effort by which you conserve your energy and direct it towards your spiritual journey. The effort by which you conserve your energy. You don't allow it to get dissipated. You don't waste your time. You don't waste your energy. You're very conscious of what you, because your energy is limited. It's not infinite. Your time is limited. It's not infinite. So how do you use your time? Conserving your time, conserving your energy, and putting it in the right direction. Doing the right kind of activities for your own spiritual growth. That concerted effort is called tapas. That concerted, focused effort is tapas. So it happens at all three levels. At the level of the body itself, there ought to be tapas. And it's not limited to the body. It's not limited to physical activity. At the level of the mind, there is tapas. At the level of the intellect, at the level of your thoughts and ideas, there is tapas. So what is this? We'll discuss each of these three aspects. We'll discuss what is the austerity of body, what is austerity of mind, and what is austerity of intellect, of speech. Verse number 14 talks about the austerity of the body, the tapas of the body. Devadvijaguru prajnaha पूजनं शौचमार्जवं ब्रह्मचर्यमहिंसा च शरीरं तप उच्यते देवद्विजगुरप्राज्ञः पूजनं शौचमार्जवं ब्रह्मचर्यमहिंसा च शारीरं तप उच्यते. शारीरम तप उच्यते. What is शरीर का तप? शरीर का तप क्या है? कहते हैं, मैं पहले हिंदी अनुवाद करूंगा, देवता, ब्राह्मण, गुरु, ज्ञानी जनों का पूजन, पवित्रता, सरलता, ब्रह्मचर्य और अहिंसा से किया हो तो वह शरीर संबंधी तप कहा जाता है. The austerity, which is the worship of the gods, the twice born, the gurus and the wise. So the worship of the gods, the twice born, the gurus and the wise. Purity at the level of the body, purity at the level of your actions, uprightness, arjava, celibacy, brahmacharya, non-injury, ahimsa, non-injury. Such austerity is called the austerity of the body. This is what it means to be austere at the level of the body. This is what tapas means. He is defining it. He's not talking about standing on one leg. He's not talking about doing yoga for 5 hours. Not talking about not eating or eating only once a day. All of that is not tapas. At the level of the body, at the level of your actions, what are you worshipping? What are you pursuing? What are you trying to emulate? Who are you trying to emulate? First of all, the worship of the gods. Remember last time I said, the gods and goddesses, the n number of the innumerable gods and goddesses, the 33 different types of gods and goddesses. Now, whether you want to take it as 33 crore or 33 different types of gods and goddesses, it's up to you. But all the various gods and goddesses, which are a representation of the one God, Brahman, which are a representation of the one big G God. So all the gods and goddesses, the innumerable manifest powers of the universe, the worship of those, the worship of the twice born, Dvijaya. What is twice born? Twice born represents a self-realized person. Twice born represents a self-realized person. See, in any, there's a ceremony. There's a ceremony when a child grows up to the age of 8 or 9 years old. It's called Upanayana. Upanayana. I don't know, maybe that's a South Indian name. I don't know what we call it in North India. It's the sacred thread ceremony, जहाँ में sacred thread मिलता है. What is the symbolism of that ritual? And anybody who's gone through that ritual is said to be Dvija, twice born, because that ritual is your second birth, as it were. Now, literally speaking, that is Dvija. But what does it represent? Now, at the birth of the body, when you are born physically, you are still underdeveloped. Only your body is born, frankly. Any baby, what is it? It's simply a body. It's a small body. I'm sorry to grossify it like this, but it's simply a body. The personality is still underdeveloped. Correct, Janayu. So the body is just there. The mind is still underdeveloped. The intellect is not even there. The buddhi is not even there. Over a period of time, in the first couple of years, you'll see the mind develop. The child will develop, emotions, feelings. The child will develop likes and dislikes. Hmm? If it gets what it's like, if it gets what it likes, it'll be very happy. If it doesn't get what it likes, it'll start crying. Mind is developed or developing. But towards the age of 7, 8, 9 years old, now of course it's slightly earlier, I don't know. Towards the age of 8 or 9 years old, the child develops the capacity to think. The child develops a new capacity to ask questions, to be intelligent almost. All the grandparents out here will know what I'm talking about, because they are the most excited when that happens. It's like a total shift in the upbringing when the child begins, like, develops that first strand of maturity, that first sense of awareness, that capacity to think, ask questions. That is the birth of the intellect. That is the birth of the buddhi. And so when the buddhi is born, now the buddhi is your tool on your spiritual journey. That's what you have to understand. What sets us apart from animals and plants, of course. What makes us different from animals is our buddhi, our capacity to guide the mind, our capacity to carry the mind, to direct our emotions, to give it a higher direction. So what sets us apart from animals is this wondrous equipment called the buddhi. And that develops at the age of 8 or 9. That's when we know we are fully human and ready to take up the spiritual journey. So that's why traditionally children were sent to gurukuls at this age. The moment the buddhi develops, give it the right direction, give it the right knowledge. So in that age, you perform this Janeyu ceremony, this Upanayanam, where you're given the Janeyu, the sacred thread. And you are said to be Dvija, twice born. It's a new birth almost. It's the birth of your real spiritual personality. Now that's literally taking it, right? That's one symbolic representation. When a person gets onto the spiritual path with that resolve, with that mumukshatva, such a person is said to be Dvija, twice born. In fact, when a person is said to realize the self, as it were, when he sheds his false personality, when he sheds his false individuality and realizes his true nature, is born once again, as it were. That is the true meaning of twice born. So this ceremony at the age of 8 or 9 only is symbolic of that ultimate experience. With this buddhi that is now developed, you have the capacity to grow to that state, to the true state of Dvija, to be truly born again, shedding your false ego and realizing that Tvamasi, your real self. So that is Dvija. So worship of such people who have attained such spiritual heights. Worship of such people who have attained such spiritual heights. And of course, the gurus. Worship of the gurus. Those who are your GPS on the spiritual path. Your guru is your GPS on the spiritual path. The wise, those who have knowledge from whom you can learn. So the worship of such people, the gods, the dvijas, the gurus, and the wise. What kind of people do you emulate? What kind of people do you follow? What kind of people do you want to be like? Whose actions are you inspired by? The Satvika are inspired by the actions of such people. The Satvika are curious about the actions of such people. And then he goes on to say, of course, what else is part of austerity of body? There's purity, uprightness, celibacy, non-injury. 1 minute is too less to explain all these 4 beautiful qualities. So we will talk about purity, uprightness, celibacy, and non-injury. Misunderstood ideas, but needs a lot of clarification. We will talk about this tomorrow when we meet at 7 a.m. and we will continue our discussion on austerity of body, austerity of mind, austerity of speech. So with that thought, we'll conclude today's class and we'll see you once again at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamadah पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति।